it's me, the D-O double G. Welcome to the Eden Army Podcast with your host tonight, Pete Robert Tucci.
Welcome, Eden Army. Thanks for tuning in on your Friday night. I know you guys have better things to do, but I am happy that you're here with me to spend at least an hour talking smack about what's going on in the world of politics and the geopolitical environment. So we shall see. We got a pretty good turnout tonight. Terry's always in the house. Thank you, Terry. Will, Russ, Kelly, and Med are both in the house on different accounts. Corey, Chris, Agnes. Who else? Did I miss anybody? And there are some more people, but they're afraid to chat. So we'll let them get over their fear of chatting and see what happens. Well, I hope you guys did pick up book 3. I hope you enjoyed it so far, like we were talking in chat a little earlier. Reviews are doing good, and hopefully you see a progression in my writing style, at least a little bit, because I always want to progress for you guys, and that goes with anything. That goes from the podcast to the lives to the writing to just about anything we do. So as long as I feel like you're getting value out of it, I'm going to keep doing this silly thing that I call writing or scribbling, but some people call it writing. I don't know. But hopefully you like the storyline. I am working heavily on a spin-off series that you guys are really going to enjoy. I think it's going to come from a perspective of a non-prepper that ends up getting thrusted into some preparedness scenarios, and it's going to be in a different part of the country with the same event taking place. So, and it kind of fits in to even talk about that right now, because we're going to talk about media propaganda here in a little bit, and how Hollywood is basically hand in hand with the United States government to promote that propaganda to us. They're gonna paint the narrative for us, and they're doing that through entertainment. Now, they've been doing that since World War II, so it's nothing new. But I think what we're seeing now is some subtle inferences for some things that are to come here in our future. So that's a little bit of a scary thing. And as always, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. I've got Russ working on the back end to pin comments up for me, so hopefully I won't miss any questions that come about. If you have questions about book 3 without any spoilers, if you have questions about the new series, feel free to ask. And I would love to talk about that stuff, because I am really excited about it. And the sales for book 3 are going phenomenal, and I appreciate all of you guys for that. The Amazon the Amazon stats don't really reflect that because of the pre-order thing that we did, which we've nailed the whole pre-order thing. But certainly we're getting good reviews, and we are doing, especially on the Kindle aspect of the book, we are doing really, really well. So thank you all very much for that. I appreciate that. So Terry says, will there be a book 4 at some point? Absolutely. I can't leave an ending like that, Terry, without putting forth a book 4. And as soon as I get this manuscript at least halfway done for this next book in that other series, then I'm going to start diving into book 4 of the Eden series. So that's going to happen. Or if I just feel stagnant with the other series, I'll revert back to what I know, which is the Eden series. So that's definitely going to happen. And how many in that series, I have no idea. So let's see what happened here. Kelly says if he could learn how to read, Audible versions, Kelly, are going to come out. I needed to wait until book 3 came out, and then we're going to try to do all 3 of them in one shot. So certainly they are going to come out on Audible at some point. So that's that. What do you say we dive into the news a little bit, and then you guys come up with some questions, and then we'll dive into the first thing I want to talk about, what's going on in the Middle East. Right now in the Middle East, you know, we went through that whole thing where the president was going to build a dock to help resupply those folks in Gaza. Well, an interesting thing, Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, which is, by the way, a Marxist-Leninist terrorist organization, which is stationed in Gaza right now, they said they consider the construction of the dock for U.S. humanitarian operations part of a plan to create Gazan dependency on the United States. So here's what I don't understand. The Palestinian people, for years and years and years, have said we only rely on Israel. We're only able to rely on Israel for water, food, electric, everything. Yet, when another nation offers help to them, they say, well, you're trying to take over Palestine. I don't understand what the Palestinian people want, what they expect. They don't know what they want. Here's what they want. They want the Middle East to remain unstable. The Iranians want the Middle East to remain unstable. That entire region, and from we'll talk about that, about Israel's part in all of this. But at some point, you have to say, listen, this is the help that's offered to you. If you want it, take it. If not, we're not giving you anything else. We're not sending U.S. taxpayer dollars. And ultimately, look, that's really what they want. They just want our money. They don't want anything else. They don't want food. They want money to continue their terrorist regime that they have in Palestine right now. So until our administration realizes that that's all they want and goes ahead and just cuts the cord and lets them fend for themselves, or better yet, let these Arab nations who are supposedly all for a Palestinian state, let them take care of them. But they're not doing that. Nobody's stepping up. Nobody's stepping up from the Arab states. Iran is sending weapons, is all they're sending. And any building construction materials that we send over there, or Iran sends over there, or anybody else sends over there, gets turned into something for war. So it's an interesting dynamic that's going on right now in the Middle East. So I don't know where that's all going to lead. We shall see. Israel media reports that the Israeli government is looking for a non-American source of weapons after the USA criticizes their war effort. So what's that mean? That means they're looking for other nations to give them arms to protect themselves, because they have some manufacturing ability in Israel to manufacture some arms, but certainly not to the scale that they need. They rely on outside countries for that. The Biden administration, in an effort to appease radical leftists, are pushing away our most valuable ally in the region. So if we're not providing them arms, who else is going to be providing them arms? Either it's going to be Russia, China, could be Britain. They don't produce quite enough. So what I don't understand is, and what our administration fails to realize, and Europe's starting to see it right now, is Israel is our only shield from Islamic extremism. And I've said that before, and I'll continue saying it because it's not quite sinking in with the powers that be. Israel stops most threats going into Europe, and without them, Muslim extremists will take over the European continent. And then they will have their sights squarely set on the United States of America, or the big Satan, as they would like to call us, as your taxpayers go there. Yeah, you're right, Terry. Their allegiance will go to somebody else. Their intelligence department, their communication between the intelligence department won't be, first we need to warn the United States. It's going to be to that nation that's helping them defend themselves. So it's a big problem, and I don't quite understand why we don't see that here in the United States. Well, most of us don't see it. The informed few do see that, but unfortunately, we're not sitting in the White House right now. So the Israeli defense minister was in Washington, D.C. to discuss the Rafah invasion with the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken. Israel canceled a different delegation in response to the U.S. abstinence from the UN Security Council ceasefire vote. So, Israel canceled their first delegation to the United States because we did not stand with Israel to veto the ceasefire vote in the UN Council. We abstained from it. We basically says, oh, we don't have an opinion either which way, because the Biden administration is currently trying to appease the radical leftists in his party. And the other thing that's happening is no matter where Joe Biden goes, no matter what event he goes to, he's being swarmed with pro-Palestinian riots and demonstrations. So a good portion of his voting pool from big cities like St. Paul, Minneapolis, Michigan, Dearborn, Michigan, big cities like that are slowly starting to move away from the Democratic Party because of their alliance with Israel. So it's interesting times, and it's a fine line. And I kind of understand the Biden administration here. It's a fine line for them. They want to remain in power. I get it. I understand it. But at some point, you need to draw that line on what's good and what's evil. And say, okay, listen, if we're not going to be in power, so be it. But we're not going to throw away our biggest ally in the Middle East. It's not going to happen. These people have a right to defend themselves. So at some point, that line has to be drawn in the sand. No pun intended, but it has to be drawn, and we need to stick to our guns. They always talk about, American values and American morals. Well, now's the time for the Democratic Party to show us what their values are, where their morals lie, and stand with this country and allow them to defend themselves. Whatever means necessary. There is no way that anybody would have stopped us after 9/11. No country in the world. They would never have stood in our way. Yet here's poor Israel, who per capita suffered worse than 9/11, and we're fighting them to defend themselves. It's I don't think they can. I don't think they can. They can draw a line. I think they're afraid to draw a line. And Mama Toots just put up a good point in chat. Also, she says that she doesn't understand why so many Jewish people in the United States consider themselves Democrats. And that always blows my mind also, that so many Jewish people here vote for the Democratic Party. It blows my mind. I don't understand it. They see the way that Democrats treat Israel, and time again, every voting cycle, they end up voting for Democrats. You're right, Will. All they care about, money is power. Money and power. Money and power. That's all they want. So let's get out of the Middle East. Hey, baby girl. Baby girl, Tiny Toots just chimed in with her brand new super fast internet. And baby girl got a new job this week, guys. So she's working a 9 to 5. So she's been grumpy every night. So be nice to her today in chat. Yeah, she's adulting. She's doing fine. Let's move out of the Middle East, guys. Let's move over to Russia. We all know that Russia had that terrible attack in Moscow. Vladimir Putin's not ruling out that the U.S. and the Ukraine actually had involvement in that attack. And now I know that the U.S. certainly, unless you got that tinfoil hat on really, really super tight and a lot of tinfoil, like the double ply, right? I don't believe the United States had any involvement in that attack. But Vladimir Putin is starting to throw that out there, which is not a good sign. Not a good sign at all. Let's see what he has to say here real quick.
Преступление совершено руками радикальных исламистов, с идеологией которых сам исламский мир борется веками. Мы видим также, что США по разным каналам пытаются убедить своих сателлитов и другие страны мира в том, что по их разведданным киевского следа в московском теракте якобы нет. Что кровавый теракт совершили последователи ислама, члены запрещенной в России организации ИГИЛ. Мы знаем, чьими руками было совершено это злодеяние против России и ее народа. Нас интересует, кто заказчик. В ходе совместной работы наших спецслужб и правоохранительных органов нужно получить ответы на целый ряд вопросов. Например, действительно ли радикальные и даже террористического толка исламские организации заинтересованы в нанесении ударов по России, которая выступает сегодня за справедливое решение обострившегося ближневосточного конфликта? И как радикальные исламисты, позиционирующие себя, кстати, в качестве правоверных мусульман, исповедующие так называемый чистый ислам, идут на совершение тяжких зверств и преступлений в священный для всех мусульман месяц Рамадан. На эти, как и на другие, более конкретные профессиональные вопросы для объективного расследования преступления, совершенного в Москве, предстоит ответить. Абсолютно ясно одно. Ужасное преступление, совершенное 22 марта в столице России, это акция устрашения, как я уже сказал. И сразу же возникает вопрос, кому это выгодно? Это злодеяние может быть лишь звеном в целой серии попыток тех, кто с 2014 года воюет с нашей страной руками неонацистского киевского режима. А нацисты, как хорошо известно, никогда не брезговали использовать самые грязные и бесчеловечные средства для достижения своих целей. Тем более сегодня, когда их разрекламированное контрнаступление полностью провалилось, это уже признано всеми, не оспаривается.
I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. I don't know if you guys could see the text there, but he basically says who benefits from this attack. There's only very few people that would benefit from this attack, and of course he blames the Ukrainian government wholeheartedly for that. And he goes on to say that they're neo-Nazis. Now, here's the deal about the Ukrainian government, that they are not good people. Regardless, listen, I understand communism is bad. We all hate communism, but to hedge our bets with the Ukrainian people right now, it is problematic, and it's problematic because they are not good people. They're a corrupt government. They always have been, and they always will be. And the fact that Putin even invaded Ukraine was, in my opinion, the fault of NATO. NATO made certain promises to the Russians, and we broke those promises. Wholeheartedly, we broke those promises to the Russian government. So what other chance did they have? Now, look, I'm not saying that they were right in invading a sovereign country. 100% they were not. It was unprovoked at the time. But there is a reason behind it. And history, if you're a scholar of any type of history, and just history here since 2014, then you'll understand that although these attacks might not have been warranted, that this war might not be 100% warranted. He could have probably went at this at a different angle. He tried. Okay, he tried. Putin's a very smart individual, but there are certain things with Putin. He is ex-KGB, and he wants the motherland whole again. Now, he made concessions when Ukraine formed with the promise that we wouldn't put missiles on the border of Russia, anti-aircraft missiles or any other type of ballistic missiles, which the United Nations, or NATO rather, broke their promise. So I don't know. He's backed in a corner. He's an evil guy, but when you back an evil guy in a corner, guess what he's going to do? He's going to do evil things. That's the way it works. So that's kind of just there. So Will says that they certainly did catch Middle Eastern. The attackers, they were of Middle Eastern descent. But I've only found one source of this. The Indian News Network reported that Russia has verifiable proof that cryptocurrency transfer was made from Ukraine to at least one of the attackers. Now, bear in mind, this is only single source. This only comes from the Indian News. But it is certainly being floated out there, and we don't hear much about it on our side of the globe. Maybe for a reason, I don't know. But let's see what India has to say about this.
Terrorist attack on a concert hall that killed more than 140 people in Russia. Russia says it has evidence that the perpetrators of last week's massacre at a concert hall outside Moscow were linked to what they say Ukrainian nationalists. President Vladimir Putin and his security services continue to allege Ukraine and the West were involved somehow in the March 22nd attack, despite an Islamic State affiliate having already claimed responsibility. Putin is hell-bent on proving Ukraine is responsible for this terrorist act. Russia's investigative committee said on Thursday that the suspects had received what they say significant amounts of money and cryptocurrency from Ukraine. Although the Russian agencies have been working hard to prove the link and they already have many suspects in their custody, but till now they haven't shown any concrete evidence to back up their claims. Ukraine and its Western allies have branded the accusations that they were involved as completely absurd. But a question that everyone is wondering about is how could the Russian security apparatus fail so massively? The March 22nd.
We'll cut that there because she just goes on to say that the United States and the Ukrainian government deny all those accusations. And then she goes on to blame the Russians for not being on top of the intelligence that we had given them for one. So we have certainly given them the intelligence saying that there was an attack. We told all non-essential personnel in Russia to leave the area 2 weeks prior to the attack. So certainly we had an indication that it was happening. They didn't listen to us. But is there something more insidious behind all that? I'm not 100% sure if there is. So yeah, so Baby Girl says extremist Muslims obviously don't care about Ramadan. Putin needs to quit yapping. You're right, Baby Girl, you are right. He does need to quit yapping about that. But sooner or later, he needs to get to the bottom of who's attacking his people. No different than Israel needs to get to the bottom of who attacked their people in October. No different than we needed to get to the bottom of who attacked our people on 9/11. So he's doing his due diligence as the leader of that country to find out what's happening. Now, is he using this as propaganda to further the war in the Ukraine? Possibly, but that's what happens. So let's see what else is going on here. Another pinned message. Got that one. Pop. Good to go. All right, before we get to going on any further, I don't know if you guys have seen this particular little tidbit of stuff we got going on here with the Angry Nation, but we decided that we were going to team up. Since, look, most of you guys all read Chris's stuff. You read my stuff. It's one big family. So, you know, it's funny because sometimes when we go to events together, one day some of the fans will wear an Eden Army shirt, and then another day they'll wear an Angry American shirt, and then it'll go, you know, because they don't want to have anybody to feel slighted, which I certainly would not feel slighted either way. But we saved you guys the trouble. So you can get both the best of both worlds right here, and that's available for pre-order only. We're not gonna order any until we get at least 20 shirts on the books, and then we're gonna go ahead and order all those from my buddy Dan. What it says is that we are the tribe your mother warned you about, and that's going to be written on the front with each of our logos, each on one sleeve. So that this little advertisement here is a little bit misleading because it shows Angry American's logo in multiple colors. It is only going to be in black and white though. So just so you know. So Nikki, if you're in on the shirts, make sure you email Russ. Russ, if you want to type your email address in there, that would be awesome. And we'll get a list going and how many you want, what sizes you want. It'd be cool if we were rocking these things at Mountain Readiness. So that would be really awesome. So if we can get as many people with Eden Army and the Angry Nation shirts on at one time, that would be pretty cool. And I'd love to get a group picture of all you guys at Mountain Readiness with that on. Speaking of Mountain Readiness, we're going to cut to a quick break real quick and promote those guys that take care of us so much. Be right back. There you go. Not quite yet. There you go. So that's Mountain Readiness. Those are guys that love us and we love them. They've helped us out. They've given us some stuff that helps us, that enables us to actually go to Harmony, North Carolina and be with you guys. So we certainly appreciate those guys at Mountain Readiness, and we love T and his wife Amber. So hopefully we see each and every one of you guys there. Let's move on to something that's been, well, let's talk about something real quick before we get started. Let's move to the United States. That's what's going on here in the homeland. Joe Biden had a star-laden political fundraiser that netted his campaign $26 million in one sitting. The Democrats report they currently have in their coffers $155 million for the re-election fund, as opposed to $74 million by the Donald Trump camp. The Democrats have a long-standing relationship with Hollywood, which brings me to the next topic. And I've been thinking about this for a couple weeks, and Will, I think, mentioned it. And actually, since the P. Diddy or Puff Daddy or whatever, Sean Combs thing came to light, where allegedly he's involved in human trafficking and basically sex crimes with minors, that really brought my attention to start looking into this. And as I was scrolling through the world of YouTube, I came across a video with Candace Owens. Let me see if I can find that video real quick. And then she goes on to talk about
story.
Now, why do you believe that Hollywood?
1 second. She goes on to talk about some pretty interesting stuff that I didn't realize, for the most part.
Story.
Now, why do you believe that Hollywood was created by the CIA?
Well, before we say Hollywood was created by the CIA, I guess I should clarify because, first off, you guys do know that the Pentagon has a budget for film. Like, there's a whole department in the Pentagon.
Know that.
That's a fact. There you go. That's all you need to know. There's an entire department in the Pentagon. They get involved with films, and they get involved with films for the purpose of propaganda. They always have.
What movies have
I
they
should have
produced?
said Pentagon instead of CIA. Tons of them. I should show you the list. You should pull it up.
I'm gonna
It's
Google it right now.
wild. Yeah, Pentagon
please.
Department for Hollywood. Tons of them.
I have to
Even
report this.
Transformers. Even Transformers, because they're concerned about certain narratives. They get involved with like World War films, like How Are We Telling a Story About History? Usually it's because we're lying about what we did or trying not to make Americans aware of the crimes against humanity that we
Wow.
commit overseas,
Yeah, the Pentagon has funded some films: Black Hawk Down, Red Dawn, GoldenEye.
The more you know. So now you understand your experience in theaters is what your government wants you to think. They want you to think that this is how things happen, and it's usually not at all how things have actually happened.
6 of the best movies made with help from the Department of Defense. This is military.
Yeah. I shouldn't have said CIA. I should have just said the government. But
Top Gun,
yeah,
Red Dawn, Apollo 13,
it's all about
Iron
just.
Man.
Iron Man. Oh my!
I didn't know that was on the list.
Now he upset.
Wow.
Now he upset. Let me ask,
Interesting.
now you
but,
said
but talking about continue.
What? Iron Man? Nah, that's her limit right there. She was like, you know what? Now it's crazy.
What is the point of that? Just control?
Yeah, propaganda. It's crazy. You grow up in school and you think propaganda belongs to the East or something. Propaganda is the name of the game of our government. They, again, never want you to look into the crimes that they are committing. So they're constantly trying to sell themselves as the good guys. They did the most. They rescued and saved the world. They've never done anything bad overseas. If you are living and you believe that the American government hasn't committed crimes against humanity, you had to wake up from the propaganda. You just got it. You got to learn real history, not what was taught to you in a textbook. That's all just propaganda,
So there you go. That's Candace Owens. Like, love her, hate her, whatever. She does speak the truth, and I think she's a very articulate young lady. But it leads me I went down that rabbit hole, right? And it started me thinking about the show that came out, the movie that came out that was co-produced by the Obamas, and which was it was a good movie. I'm not gonna say it wasn't. I really enjoyed the movie, but there are sudden innuendos within that movie that you need to be aware of, and most people are not going to catch it, but you guys will, because you're in the know and you're like-minded and you start thinking the same way that we think. There are certain innuendos that it's going on that we need to be aware of, regardless of how entertaining the movie is. We need to at some point realize that there may be some hidden propaganda inside of that. And this has been going on, like I said, since World War II. I went ahead and read as much as I could in the last couple of days about it. But just be aware of it, and just be aware of the innuendos and the propaganda that possibly could be being spewed with some of the stuff that Hollywood is putting out. And it might be a tale of what things are to come. Remember that, okay? There's a whole conspiracy theory that these people that are in charge, whoever those people are, clear their conscience by telling us what's coming and then saying, well, we told you it was coming. Why didn't you do something about it? And that's how they supposedly clear their conscience. But there's a whole rabbit hole in a whole conspiracy theory you can go down with looking at that kind of stuff. But I guess the moral of the story is just be aware, and be aware of this next one that's coming out. Let's pop this real quick.
19 states have seceded.
This one I'm looking forward to watching, but I am going to be very cognizant of what type of innuendos might be in this particular movie. This is called Civil War.
The White House issued warnings to the Western forces as well as the Florida Alliance.
The three-term president assures the uprising will be dealt with swiftly.
Let me know if you want to try anything on.
Are you guys aware there's like
Theater.
a pretty huge civil war going on all across America?
We just try to stay out. With what we see on the news, seems like it's for the best.
Citizens of America, the so-called Western forces of Texas and California have suffered a very great defeat at the hands of the United States military.
Mr. President, do you regret the use of airstrikes against American citizens?
I don't know if you guys caught that, but he says, Mr. President, do you regret the use of airstrikes on American citizens? This was a big deal when Biden said, I don't know why you guys need an assault rifle, because we got F-15s. Interesting.
Into D.C. today.
You need to go down there.
Journalists on site in the Capitol. Every instinct in me says this is death. What?
Every time I survived a war zone, I thought I was sending a warning home. Don't do this. But here we are.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here. What? Well, you're American, okay?
That's a great scene.
Okay. What kind of American are you? You don't know?
Western forces will reach the White House on July 4th.
Oh my God.
Get in the car! Get in the car! You're gonna hang back.
I'm not hanging back.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go, 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 go!
God bless America.
It's interesting, right? Now, at a very minimum, would that be desensitizing us to the thought that we could potentially have some type of uprising in the United States? I don't know, but I'm interested to see what innuendos are spewed in that movie, regardless of how it's all portrayed. And remember, it's entertainment, but there is a certain propaganda aspect to anything that comes out of Hollywood nowadays. So be aware of that, everybody, just so you know. Let's see, we'll go through questions here real quick. Ron Swanson, I didn't realize that Ron Swanson was the president. Baby girl, you have a good eye. Javi, welcome. Easy Life. Yeah, we just talked about that, Javi, before you came on, Leave the World Behind, and all the innuendos that was behind that. It was a good movie, but there were a lot of overtures that you can tell that the Obamas added in. And the ending certainly did. The ending wasn't Well, I can't say anything about endings because my books typically, people tell me the same thing about my books. Can't believe you left it like that. Yeah, yeah. All right, with that being said, guys, we're going to take a quick intermission. We've gone about an hour on the communist YouTube, and we are going to cut Rumble short and cut YouTube short, and then we'll be back exclusively on Kick.com. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes.